I got you.
I see
what you're saying.
This question is mainly for the more venerable members of the crew, and in this case, venerable will mean old.
Okay.
So for all
enduring.
of us.
Right. Oh, that's a good one. I like enduring.
Enduring's good. I work as a product trainer in an industry where the workforce is mainly made up of people in their early to mid-20s. Since my primary audience are people who are 15 to 20 years younger than I am, I often have to deal with their misconception that I don't or shouldn't know what I'm talking about because of my age. Is this something that you face now or that you anticipate facing in the future? And if so, how do you deal with it?
I don't face this yet because I don't know anybody who's 20. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know anyone 22.
Yes, you do. Your audience. You're saying you don't,
I don't
know
know
audience.
them.
Then you've got the problem.
But I don't know them
You
personally.
are the problem.
You've already been
You just said it.
And if they listen to us,
CNET
they
just
already
said-
trust us.
Jeff Backler just confirmed that he does not. CNET does not know his audience, but you should trust him anyway.
Guess what?
What?
CNET's audience ain't 20. News break.
It's a CBS property, so
Check it out.
60.
Beastcast has all the scoops. I do and have thought about this before, but not necessarily in a apocalyptic or drama way. More in a boy, this is interesting how this whole cycle goes around of like folks who are not coming from the same place that we came from, did not have the same early experiences, who don't think about Resident Evil or Halo or these franchises that maybe we were around for the launch of in the same way. They came in at Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil's always been good, right? Didn't have the early changeover. And that happens a lot. Now.
And I think soon enough you're going to start finding the audience that didn't come in until Minecraft.
Yeah, totally. And didn't come in until were born into an environment where everybody was streaming video games.
Right.
That wasn't a thing you got into. It was a thing you just did. You do from home, right? It wasn't where that job seems like that's what you do. That's not a profession. And the way people think about games has changed.
And I also think that this is something that's going to start cycling at a much faster rate. I mean, it's like we're all in our 30s here. And, I think back in the day, the baseline was more like, hey, if you're in your 40s or, don't trust anyone over 40. It's kind of turning into like, don't trust anyone over 30 now, and it's like, I understand where that comes from. I definitely was like that as a kid. I immediately assumed that anyone that was within that age range had no idea what I was into or what was on the bleeding edge of culture. And now I've definitely seen that where it's like people in their mid-20s, are just like, I tell them I'm 34 and their eyes just rolling back into their fucking head. And I get it. And the thing is, I have always said to myself, I don't want to become that old, fussy person who just complains about what the kids are into because it's not what I was into. That doesn't mean that I'm going to sign off on every single trend that comes along, but I don't want to be that person.
So I'm of two minds here. I have two minds that end up leading to the same solution or same spot, which is the same as what Alex basically said, which is, obviously I'm the least venerable person here, but I've been thinking about this a lot.
You're very venerable.
I do my best. I try to age as fast as I can.
You're working on it.
I'm working on it. One day. That's what I keep telling myself. I'm of two minds here, and I've been thinking about this a lot over the last year or two, which is, so I kind of came up through circles of criticism, Games Crit, which is older than people think. I get emails every now and then that are like, wow, has anybody ever done like games academia before? Like, yeah, it's actually like a huge, it's a massive field with hundreds and thousands of people working in it. It's just not very well reported. It's not like a very public thing. And in that space, both in university and in kind of popular criticism or wider criticism, I've seen lots of young critics kind of turn and become critics of older critics. And I know that because I've been part of that cycle where like, last January, I wrote a piece that was like but was very critical of certain positions by people like Frank Lance, Ian Bagost. Like, I've been in that group of young critics eating older critics, right? And saying, hey, you're out of touch, you're out of date, you're missing something. I might be walking on the groundwork that you laid, but we're going forward. And so part of me is already anxious of like, oh, I'm marching to that. 5 years from now, I'm going to be outdated and replaced and thought of as being an old fogey. And so that's anxiety inducing. Like, how long until the wolves turn on me? I'm the wolf. How long until another wolf eats me? Right.
Right.
And not for cruelty reasons, because they're hungry and because they have some ideas that I don't have yet. And that's anxiety inducing. On the other hand, it's also super exciting. I often get a lot of questions from people who say things like, what do you think is the most exciting thing happening in games criticism right now? Or what's the most exciting game? What's the most innovative thing coming out? And my response tends to be like, I don't know what it is because I'm out of touch, but I bet you I would hate it because it's that much more different than what my baseline is as what when I was 20 was cool and fresh and new and underground. And that's so exciting in a way that like I can't wait to be replaced by someone who is that much smarter and more innovative than I am. And for that reason, for both of those reasons, they end up with what Alex just said, which is I try to get very excited about what people who are younger than me are into, and I'm curious. I might not love what they love, but I always take it the first step. They're being sincere about their love. No one loves it. Not no one. Very few people. When something is big, like Minecraft, like Ark or Rust, something is happening there. That's like legitimate enjoyment is happening, even if it's not my legitimate enjoyment. What's happening there? What can I learn about those people and about this medium because other people are excited about it? Like, take their excitement seriously and their interest seriously, and you can just learn a lot.
Yeah, and as a follow-up to that, and something I think that's a little more specific to people who came into this line of work around the time that I did, I consider myself at least one of the last in a line of people who fell into this kind of work. People in the early days, like there were people who definitely, the people who wrote about games for magazines and for online websites and what have you, they were people who were passionate about video games, but they weren't people who, at least not very often, were not people who got into this line of work because that was the thing they were dead set on doing.
Yeah.
Didn't know how you wanted to be involved with video games. Somehow you did. This is where you ended up. I was, I think, one of the very last people to kind of come in under those sorts of terms. I knew people who worked in this line of work, and I found it. And I grew to love it. And I grew to develop like a voice and a skill around it. But that wasn't my goal. Right. I didn't have a goal. I was a goalless individual. But nowadays you can't do that because the jobs are finite. There are more than enough people.
They're very talented people.
They're very talented and also very driven to succeed in this field. And I think that one, that's great for it because it is actually games criticism is actually developed into games criticism. It's not just product reviews. It's like people are actually talking about games culturally and digging deeper than, frankly, just anyone was motivated to do back in the day. And I think that that sort of thing, I guess maybe should be scary to someone like me who kind of came in under a very different kind of environment. But it's not, because for me, it's like I'm very excited about like what younger critical voices are doing nowadays. Like, honestly, Austin, you were one of the people that I found during a few years ago.
It.
No, but seriously, like I started reading your stuff. It's like this is an angles to game crit that I never thought about. And that kind of stuff is really exciting to me. And I very much am looking forward to seeing where that goes. If that eventually ends up with the jewel in my hand going off and I have to be shuttled off into the fucking wasteland.
Yeah.
Hey, I got to eat too, but at the same time, like, I understand and I'm not mad about it. This is the way this shit goes.
So let me steer it. Actually, I think this comes in from Montreal, not sorry, Brad.
No, you're right.
Yours. Let me steer it back around to what do you think about people who discount what you're saying because of your age?
I think that you should always look to your elders with a degree of not mistrust, but at least a little bit of suspicion, which is to say that they are going to tell you things and they are going to try and impart knowledge on you. And that knowledge will always come from their era, their time, what they learned, what they experienced. And that's not always going to be 100% applicable to you in the era that you exist in and that you are learning in. Just be critical about it. Like, take the knowledge, roll it around, do what you can with it. Don't automatically dismiss them because they're old,
right? But
also realize that they're maybe not going to get the things that you get because they are old, and just understand. Like, you can be understanding without being dismissive.
I also think you have to realize, like, you will be that.
Yes, one day we will all be that, assuming we're not all worm food at the same time eventually.
Right, of course, but, like, that just doesn't happen enough. Where there's this, I don't know what it is. People don't realize that.
I would say, I would add to that that there are ways. Sometimes experience doesn't get communicated very well, and there can be a very pedantic way to try.
It's tough to make it not sound like you're
trying to tell it how it is. Right? The world's going to roll you.
Let me tell you, kids, about the way things really work.
Sometimes if you dig through that stuff, you can take the grains of experience out of there, and like you might not realize it for a while.
It's tough,
and then you'll realize that, like, oh, right, this was being told to me in the wrong way.
But there was something there.
But this did happen.
Yep.
And it's like it didn't happen the way that maybe was expressed, but like, oh shit, like maybe this person had been through this.
Well, and it definitely helps if you go in to both of your points. Like, as a younger person, when I talk to someone who is venerable and who has lots of experience that I haven't had, when I talk to Jeff, when I get to go out to San Francisco or E3 or PAX and see Jeff and like listen to the stories that he has and his insight, that is super useful for me, even though it's not always super relevant to my style of writing or something like that. Even though I'm doing a different thing in my reviews than what Jeff is doing in his reviews often, his experience is very valuable to me, if only because I can think about what the situation was like when he had that experience. Like, once you can contextualize knowledge, when you can understand, like, oh, why does this person who's giving me advice think this way? What were the conditions in which they came to think about things that way? How does that map to current situations? Sometimes it can map directly and say, oh, well, yeah, this is still basically the same thing it was then, or these same motivations apply now that did then because everybody's got to eat. But other times it can be like, well, things are actually different now. So, like, while that advice made sense then, like, let me think through whether or not it still maps to the current context. And, like, being able to shake that stuff out is really useful.
And I think in the case of someone like Jeff, too, like, he is, I don't mean this derisively at all, he's a 40-year-old man still writing about video games. Like, he's a dude who has survived in an environment where, you know, the idea of being an older and more experienced person is generally considered a detrimental quality.
Right.
You know, like, he has managed to endure. He has managed to continue to produce and you know, engage with an audience that, you know, should be skewing a lot younger than him, but they still talk to him. They're still interested in what he has to say. And that, you know, I think that's something that, you know, is worth acknowledging, and also sort of like, I've totally lost the word that was in my head. I was
questioning because he's a vampire.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, he's
what power source did he kind of suck out of, you know?
But like
stone?
understanding why he's been able to endure for so long, whereas like so many people that have done this line of work have dropped out like far younger than he did.
Right. When I think about the people in games who have stuck around, whether in journalism or in development, it's actually the people who have managed to continue to connect to young people.
Right.
And whether that means because they know how to make games or criticism or report in ways that speak to young people, or because they are like actually still interested in youth culture and in new music and in games that you know, they have that curiosity.
Yeah.
I think Jeff is in that camp, and so are people like Jeff Green, so are people in development who've been around for a long time, right? Like, if
there's one thing a younger audience can instantly sniff out, it is an older person giving you the greetings fellow teens routine. Like, that shit,
yes.
Like, that is an instant, like, nah, man, canary in the fucking coal mine.
Right.
Like, nah. But, like, yes, there are rare instances where people who are older than perhaps the interests that they hold seem like they should be. Still have that connection. And it's authentic.
How do you do it, Vinny?
How do I do it?
Yeah.
By keeping my mouth shut and not giving away the secrets.
You mean keeping your mouth shut,
I don't
but
think you
your
do.
ears open?
I actually know how you do it, man. You want to know how you do it?
How do I do it?
You ask a lot of questions.
I do ask a lot of questions.
Like,
I'm
you're
very
never
curious.
lost
You're
your
very
curiosity.
curious,
And he's never ashamed of it.
Exactly. That's 100% true. Like, you legitimately
Knowledge is power.
want to know things, and
I
you'll
do.
like. There are definitely days when you and I will sit at our desk and you're like, explain this to me, Austin.
Explain the youth to me.
Like, hey, here's a question. I have a feeling about this. Tell me if I'm right or wrong about this thing. Like, help me work through this stuff. And that is my favorite quality of yours.
Thank you.
No worthwhile critic can ever lose their curiosity.
That's true.
That is, and I mean, just anyone who works in a space where they are commenting and criticizing and working on a medium, like, you have to remain curious. If you get incurious, like, that is the death of your ability to stay relevant.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when we were talking about, when I was like, we talked about Giant Bomb stuff before, but one of the reasons I'm here is because we needed to change Giant Bomb, because we couldn't have it be the same people doing the same stuff all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And like, we knew that in order for new people to come up in one central housing, it would not be possible. Like, you couldn't have it be, oh shit, how do we bring new people on and do a podcast? Are we going to do 2 podcasts out of the same building? Like, is it going to be like, oh, well, we'll take turns rotating people in, or then people just going to get mad at the new people for pushing old people out or whatever? What if we siloed it and did 2 different offices and all that stuff? So some of these decisions are geared towards like growth, right? Of like, okay, I'm probably going to wind up on the East Coast anyway. I think the vision for this is like, oh, what if I get out of the fucking way, right? And it's like, I'll get the fuck out of there. You bring up some new talent that is not 40 years old and like people who have grew up with Pokemon and not fucking Atari sticks in their hand.
Yeah.
Because we need that.
Right.
And also we need other voices, right? We need voices. And like, I don't want to be like, oh, Vinny's not doing this podcast and this other person's on now. I just hate them. Right. Like, no, that's not how
And
this
that
is
happens.
That happens. Oh, I wish Vinny were on this thing. Or like,
right,
oh,
totally.
I wish Jeff were on this thing. Like, that fucking happens. And it's like, I don't want to be a part of that. And like, that was a problem we had to solve.
And I will say also, just to go back a little bit to the sort of getting out of the way and sort of kind of letting the younger people kind of step in, or at least new people come in and step in and for that stuff. There's a big difference between what you're talking about and the thing that actually gives me anxiety, which is the current state of media, which is to say that experience is sort of a noose around your neck, and the second you seem a little expensive for what they're doing, they can just find 3 20-year-olds with a desperate amount of student loans
That also happens.
that they can just shove in there and just like they can do your job now. That is the thing I'm afraid of, not actually being culturally pushed out, but just being pushed out by the pure fucking numbers.
Yeah.
My favorite part of this career is helping people out. Maybe that's just a producer thing, right? Like, I want to bring out the best.
Yeah.
I want to do the best cut, the best edit, the best version of Alex there is, right? Like, I want this to be the best version.
And I hope one day you find it.
And so I'm digging through that footage. It's there. But, like, I like helping people, like, to realize, right? And, like, that's not, I'm not going to say it's at my expense. Like, I think I've done okay for myself. So I'm not saying I'm a fucking martyr, right?
Right.
It's like, but like, I want Giant Bomb to be the best Giant Bomb. What does that mean? It means we have to find people who have different voices and stuff like that. I don't necessarily like being the spotlight. Like, it's nice to do that stuff, but like,
I can relate to that.
yeah, you know what I mean? It's like, it's very much like,
I understand that. I absolutely understand the need to take on not so much supplementary, but at least oh God, I'm just having a hard time with my words today.
I like the team.
Supportive.
I don't
supportive. Yeah,
I very much am a person who thinks teams are better than people.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, and that's important. And if those teams are made up, and this writer in again in Montreal. Like, if you what we all said here is take in that information from different team members or other people that you can incorporate into making the whole thing better yourself. The opinions of younger people, like, you might not understand it, but you might understand where they're coming from.
and you might not even entirely agree with it. Again, the point is that it's not that you have to just always listen to the younger voices or the other side always listen to your elders, but be willing to listen on either side of that coin.
But yeah, I can totally.
That's what it comes down to every week here on the Beastcast, right?
I've just kind of kept quiet during this conversation just because of like all of the things. You guys, you think you guys have an interesting situation with like younger people?
How's that go for you?
Come hang out at cnet.com.
Yeah.
Where Snapchat is a 4-letter word.
Is it really?
I mean, dude, I don't. It's.
We don't have to get into it if you don't want to get into
bad.
it.
I see a very adamant pushback against
Youth.
Not youth.
About youth
Not the
itself.
Youthful things, maybe, and just new stuff, and it drives me crazy.
I think there's a thing, like, if you were to see Austin or Alex or any of us, right? If you were to see like a competitive, let's say, a Destiny player or Call of Duty player who was 55, would that be the story, or would the story be that they're very good at this game? Like,
I think that would be the easy hook.
Yeah.
Like,
lots of places would run he's 55.
He's 55. Wow.
55. Wow.
And it's like, well, that's like 15 years older than I am. Right?
Well, like if somebody, was an incredible, gold medalist at 55, that would be the story too.
Well, so I'm thinking about CNET of like, so if I see somebody who's 40 or let's say 50 telling me how good this new Android phone is, do I immediately project like, what do you know about phones?
It's like, did you even use it?
Do you know how this works? The one
I don't think that's our biggest problem. I meant more of like,
is it a culture thing?
Yeah, I think it's a CNET culture. I don't want to.
Yeah, I'm not asking you to back on CNET.
No, of course not.
You love CNET.
I love CNET.
I go to CNET for reviews.
I've been there.
But do people use sites like that? Like, is that a generational thing of like, are people sitting on CNET reading reviews of phones, or are they finding other ways of that ingesting that media?
They are. I mean, I think what I was getting at was more of like, CNET's been around for a very long time. It is an anomaly.
Speaking of venerable.
Yeah. I mean, it is the dinosaur. Like, how many 20-plus year internet companies do you know of that are still highly profitable?
Very few.
Very few. So I think, like, with that comes a lot of challenges with generations and stuff like that.
Because again, like the difficulty there is also you don't want to be the old guy saying, "Hey, teens," right? Like you don't want to come across as disingenuous, right?
Of course.
Hey, I want to burst your bubble here.
Burst it. I think
GameSpot's like 20.
Yeah, GameSpot's turning 20 this year.
I think we're definitely older than
I think you guys are like I didn't want to call you out for being
no,
old.
we're not 30. There was no internet
a couple years.
30 years
It's a few
ago.
years earlier. But
Yeah. But yeah, it's it's a challenge.
It's tough. And like I said, we've all talked about that stuff in the office of like, even baby Austin. We've all talked about
Little babies.
like what's going on? Because this fucking world changes so damn fast.
Well, in the media landscape in general, not just talking
Holy
games
crap.
media, like media across the board, print, online, what have you. Like, it's just the sea change is real. And no one knows what it's going to be yet. There's a lot of people flailing in a lot of different directions. There's a lot of different ways that people are trying to remain profitable, some of which are more exploitative than others. And it just doesn't seem like anyone has a real answer yet.
Yeah. I'll
figure it out.
Everyone's always surprised we're still here.
Yet everyone still has that bottom part of the webpage where it's like those weird tiles that look like the classified section of some
of where to go.
Zine. Nope. Those advertising
the
tiles.
ones that are just like, you won't believe these 5 celebrities got arrested.
You're lucky if that's at the bottom of your webpage.
Yeah, it's not in the middle of the fucking article.
I'm
above
just
the
not
fold.
sure.
Don't go to websites on your phone because it's just going to open something.
Yeah.
It's like, I guess I bought an app. Cool.
That's it. Nice. Subscription?
New
Sweet.
Jersey drivers won't believe this. Get off. And whatever, we have it.
Yeah.
We're there.
They're there.
Websites. All right, that was our big one. Thanks. We went off the rails there. I don't actually know what a product trainer is. I assume it's somebody who goes around and teaches you how to use their product.
I think it's my dad used to work for Cisco, and like his company was about like training people on like their routers and other kinds of systems. So I think that's kind of what he's talking about. Is like, hey, I am teaching people how to use these products that we make.
Yeah, so like I can kind of see where somebody, if you had like a geared towards a younger audience, if you were older, that could be tough. I will end this by saying I think I just want to say for us, for Giant Bomb, that like I think the team has worked so hard to stay where we are, and like I would not put it on any one person. Like it has been such a team effort.
Yep.
And everybody has
East and West, to be clear. Right?
Yeah, no, I don't. I don't mean us because we suck.
We're terrible. They're really carrying us.
But I really, when I think about it, it's like all the personalities have come up to add something to the mix, and that's I think what has been great for working with Giant Bomb. And it's now I'm not leaving. This isn't.
Are you, Vinny?
So I'm leaving.
That's it?
I'm not. That's the end of the podcast. I've got to go.
Okay.
No, I just think it's thinking about like how you stay relevant, and it's like work with fucking awesome people that bring something to the table, so that you don't have to put on fucking shorts and I don't have to put on cool kid sunglasses and say, Hey kids, what's up? I know what's going on.
But again,
I could just ask you guys about it, what these memes are.
Oh boy!
I had to ask publicly on Twitter yesterday, what the hell is this roundabout meme? Why is this happening? And then someone showed me what it was. And I was like, oh, that's not as exciting as I was hoping it was, because I actually like the
meme is better.
The meme is better than the actual thing.
It's good.
I know people love JoJo's.
People love JoJo's.
People love JoJo for good reason.
You don't. Okay, that's fine.
What?
Also, Roundabout's a really good song.
JoJo's Bizarre Adventure?
Yeah.
I love Yes.
You know, good.
I've been in video games long enough
Yeah, you've seen it wrap around.
Yeah, I've seen it.
It was
wrap
already around once, and now
Yeah.
it's back.
Yeah.
There's a Yes song in the credits of the first season.
We've
I saw somebody say that song was called Yes by the band Roundabout, and that made me laugh.
Talking about being out of touch, man.
Boom.
Yes.
Come on.
Bleeding edge of culture.
I was like, JoJo's and Roundabout. That seems like, how did fucking Dan Teasdale license JoJo's Bizarre Adventure? All right, let's keep moving. We got some quicker emails here.